With operators, I think the big point with them is around how do they actually get capital efficiency out of their business to be able to actually convince analysts that they can have their share price be both about their current value plus their future value. Their future value is generally based on how much growth they expect in the business, as well as how much return on invested capital, how much capital efficiency. The problem they have is they have to usually spend a lot of money on infrastructure, and then they have to spend a lot of money on platforms. And the question is, when they do that, can they do that in a manner that actually continues to grow the business in terms of ARPU and RGU for their customers? The problem with that is that when there's more and more commodity, when there's more cord shaving, when there's all of these different pressures on the business, to be able to justify those higher rates per customer gets very difficult. And so what we try to tell them is you still need to be able to invest in making sure that you can keep and retain and to grow the value of each of your different households. But at the same time as you're investing in that, you start needing to invest in one-to-one capabilities, engagement, and things that help them drive reach. Because reach is really what their competitors care about. Whether that's Google, whether that's Facebook, they care about reach that's unbounded from infrastructure, and then their ability to serve that through a number of different types of services, which means that video is one of them, but it's not the only one. And that's the kind of dance that these two players need to do. So we call them aggregators right now. If they think like service aggregators, where in some cases they can bundle a bunch of services, but in others they could actually monetize their platforms into a lot of different types of digital services, they can make money from reach as much as they can make money from their customer bases and ARPU. The dance is about cannibalization and the fear of cannibalization. Things like a skinny bundle has a cannibalization fear. It's cheaper ARPU, but it supposedly can maintain your reach. But then the question is, okay, once you've actually provided a digital relationship with someone, what other digital capabilities, services, or ecosystems can you serve to that same person or household? And how you invest in your platforms to be able to unlock that equation is probably one of the biggest decisions that a lot of our operators need to think through.
And what about the programmers and the networks? I know you guys have been doing some work with the BBC. What are sort of the challenges for established huge broadcasters like that?
Right. So the interesting thing about a broadcaster is that they are a B2B business generally, but at the same time they have B2C capabilities. In their old world, though, it was very broadcasted capabilities. So the fact is they don't have any of the CRM one-to-one or any sort of relationship-based capabilities in their operating model. However, when you go to digital, that is important. That's so important because it's all about serving, personalization, and providing new types of segments that you can serve different ways based on the large amount of content portfolio you have. And that's a dangerous thing because that's a completely separate type of investment than where they're investing before, which is around content, which is around broadcast capabilities, and all the infrastructure that's related to that. So the question there is, how do you start investing in the building blocks in digital that can enable your core business? And your core business is all about brand loyalty, generally, and that brand loyalty then can be through linear usage, but it also can be around digital usage. So what we basically tell those clients, and BBC is one of them, is to think about if you're going to be a B2C provider, if you really want to create a relationship on digital and be able to monetize that audience later, you have to create an engagement-based strategy. And that engagement-based strategy is measuring engagement and doing everything within all of your parts of your business to get there. Engagement is things like number of times you visit the site, number of things you watch every time. It's more about how you connect across all the different digital channels that you have. Now, broadcasters do have an advantage. They don't have legacy the way an operator does around all their old school CRM capabilities. So they can build the operating model, but you have to do it in a way that enables the core business first as well. Because if you just do it for a D2C product, there's not enough scale, there's not enough money for that type of investment. And so the BBC is aware of that, and so they took the power of all of their digital capabilities, iPlayer, BBC News, BBC Sports, and otherwise, put a personalization platform under it to be able to start creating new ways of having conversations with the client, with the audience. And by doing that, they're starting to create more engagement with the BBC, which is one of the most important aspects of their business model.
And Accenture's just come out with a report, a global report on this massive move to IP-delivered video, and I wanted to ask you about some of your thoughts about that, and specifically the subscription model, the ad-free versus the ad-supported, and I'm sure a lot of people who read these reports are concerned in the rise of Netflix and Amazon and so on. But for broadcasters who are commercially supported, what are their prospects, and how does this sort of thing develop?
So I think it all comes, first of all, into if you're going to be a B2C player, you need to better understand your audience. And you need to be able to understand them and serve them in a way that's different than what the current operating model happens. The fact is, even if people are watching things on the TV, it will need to be personalized. It will need to be a little bit more tailored to the tastes who you're trying to get to. I think a broadcaster has a lot of great capabilities around editorial, tone of voice, and the understanding of even local advertising markets. There's things that they are good at. But if they don't bake it into a platform-based strategy and into a digital-based strategy and have it supported by data, it's going to be very difficult for them to compete. They're just going to be a bunch of pipes and go towards linear. So even if it's on the TV, even if it's around those types of relationships, they need to understand not only their audiences for the purposes of advertising, which of course is their main business, but just in terms of how they invest in content, how they invest in editorial, how they invest in product, to be able to find their most valuable audience for the content they spend the most on. It's just a way of even operating. Because you can get squeezed on both sides. Content is very expensive. Platforms can be very expensive. Having to shoulder both of those investments at the same time is quite difficult for a lot of these types of companies. It eats on the margin on both sides. So you need to be as efficient as possible on how you connect one with the other. And some of that will be about building your own engagement platforms, but they will also need to have to work with all the other platforms, whether that is the new ones like the Googles or the Facebooks. They will need to figure out how they're going to work with them, as well as how they work with their current affiliates. Now, if you think about taking all of that at the same time, that means that they are going to need to be really intelligent about which platform they use for which type of content to make the most money, whether it's direct, whether it's through platform A, platform B, platform C, whether it's done through syndication deals. And that can only be done by understanding your content performance, and you cannot understand content performance in the digital world without data. And data is going to be either by themselves creating a platform like the BBC, or it's going to be by partnering very carefully with other broadcasters, like you may have seen with OpenAP, or it's going to be about partnering with platform providers in a different way to be able to have them enable each other's businesses.